Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to Rejuvi 45. If you're here or if you are watching one of our recordings or watching one of our reels or watching one of our demos, you're doing so because you have heard this phrase called modern leadership. And it speaks to you most likely because it's the idea that compassionate leadership can be blended with fierce business leadership at the same time. So that's what we talk about. My name is Regina Hepp, and today I am joined by
And I'm Rob Marhula. Thanks for having me again, Reg.
thanks for being here again, Rob. I noticed that before we signed on to the program today, we had to do some adjusting of our windows. You and I are used because we're both located in Minnesota. We're both used to about 18 or 24 inches of snow and not very much sun. But you look outside and the grass is kind of green
Still kind of
brown.
green. Yeah, it hasn't. Yeah,
There is no snow and the sun is shining. It feels like a May day. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. Definitely feels like spring already.
I
But
know.
we
Who
know,
said that?
we know it won't last. We know
Yeah,
winter will come back
yeah,
before it's all said and done.
yeah. We'll probably that's exactly right. We'll probably have a February and a March with each with 36 inches of snow. But
Yeah.
um, that kind of sounds fun too. Um, We are here today to, our topic today is something called Swirly Twirly Content Train. And really, it's about a gigantic problem that we have inside of the space, inside of the leadership development space, where there's just so much stuff. And it's hard for leaders, um, new leaders, middle managers, executives. It's hard for them to know kind of how to move forward with all the stuff that's out there to find kind of any sense of traction. Now, a couple of years ago, we recorded a video, and in it, you sparked to this idea. And what I think is interesting is what you were talking about. And do you remember that moment we were talking again about this notion of
Hmm.
all the stuff that's out there and
Yep.
really saying, yeah, so tell me a little bit about that moment and kind of what your sentiment was.
Yeah. I mean, I think the context was we were talking about kind of the flavor of the month type stuff, and then the same old, and I think for me and my leadership journey and, and trying to develop as a leader, my biggest challenge has always been, yeah, every time I shouldn't say every time, but many times when I take some sort of class or am doing some sort of leadership development, I feel like um, it's not necessarily tailored towards me and what I actually need. So I have to find the pieces and the little nuggets in that I can take back to my role or take back to my team and apply.
Mhm.
Um, it's been, for me, and that's one of the things I like about Rejuvi is um, it's not the same old. It's not flavor of the month. It's, if I'm looking at myself as a leader, I get to see what things I can work on and really what I can do to better myself as a leader and to help my team. And really thinking about that in the context of, okay, here's areas of improvement for me, or here's areas where I'm not as strong as I could be. Let me
Mhm.
focus on those. And then here's some tools to help me focus on that, as
Mhm.
opposed to, well, here's the session we give all middle managers or all, um, all of our leadership teams. So whether you're a director, a middle manager, or a new manager,
Mhm.
you're stuck in the same thing, right? And so everybody's at a different place. Everybody's um, maybe has different expectations, but we all
Mhm.
definitely have different needs.
Mhm. I like this phrase that you used, Rob, tailored to me and to what I need. And that is not what has happened at
Right.
all, in the past. And I think that, I've certainly used these phrases called, we've had this product mentality, product-based mentality inside of the development industry. We might buy, this particular development program, or we might build this new onboarding process, but kind of everybody goes through. It's about the product. And,
Mhm.
really, the advanced analytics, what has happened to analytics and the advancement of it, and what has happened to technology, and the emergence of, some pretty exciting stuff, and the fact that Rejuvi has innovated, has changed the way that we think about what leadership is. We no longer have to take this, the make the product the star of the show. The leader and what he or she needs, tailor to their specific situation, is exactly what the future is all about. And I want to just really quickly kind of show you how that works. So, I think, first of all, when we talk about some modeling, like how do you do this, where we've changed the game in terms of what leadership is, Rejuvi will say we have put together two growth models, right? We have taken a look at, and we have studied and taken a look at, what is it about a leader in a specific situation, like a team leader or, an executive leader? What is it about a leader and their in a specific situation that makes them really, really, really good? And we represent that. Now, this is just a graphic of it, but I'm going to pull up some old artwork that we used to use, right? But this
Mhm.
is this is kind of the graphic that represents this kind of iceberg of capability that represents, a leader in excellence in their given situation. And there's three arrows because there's three building blocks, three constructs that we're really looking at. One is about, what does that leader see? And what are the things that give that leadership direction to move forward? And then this middle piece is about what do they know based on the environment around them, the groups, the people, the situations around them, that make those ideas better. And then last is, what do they do? What are the things then that get moved up the scale for implementation? And then guess what? It gives direction to everybody. So this is what we call the kind of the leader excellence model. It's got three pieces, and that's one half of modern leadership, right? That's one half.
Mhm.
And the other half, and I know you like this piece because we always say it's not about the leader and only what makes them good, right? If we don't help the business and make it good as well, that leader and
Yes.
all of their team members are not going to have a job, right? And that's not what we
Right.
want. And so we've taken a look at, and we have studied, what is it that makes organizations successful, and what are the practices that they have in place led by leaders and teams in order to have that done. And so that starts with some big picture work on strategic intent. Where are we going? Why are we going there? Over here, it moves to what we call business unit intelligence, really giving units an ability to start to say, what's our role in making this happen? And what opportunities do we see, in a boots on the ground kind of way,
Mhm.
and from that, how do we think we could move forward? And then it goes up over here, and this is about, how do we start to build structure around the right work, and how do we start to think about teams and tactics and timetables for making that happen. And this very last piece is the fourth piece of this, how do you think about excellence for the business? And that is about, how much should we bite off and chew in the next 6 months or in the next year? So it's a more robust way of helping a business to move forward. Most businesses move forward from here to here. They follow, they right, big
Yep.
picture to little picture, and
Yep.
they don't bring in these things. And we can say with a great amount of certainty that businesses who have already moved forward with these two new pieces of capability, they are doing better, right? Now, but that's not the
Yep.
topic of today's program. But what this does is it creates a better understanding. Let me do it this way, a better understanding of what does excellence actually look like in a leadership scenario, because you've got to look at the human and you have to look at the business. So I'm going to show another picture right now because that's the modeling. That's where Rejuvi has innovated. Now, how have advanced analytics and how have emerging technologies helped us? The thing is that we can now, I'm going to show you, I'm going to put this picture up just for a moment. I'm going to share my screen. Can you see the whole picture?
I think it's loading.
Okay.
I see your, I
Yeah,
think
the
your,
background.
yep,
Yeah,
yep.
I know. It's winter. It feels like spring outside, and I've got an autumn picture up. I've got almost all the
We got the
seasons.
seasons covered.
But this is kind of what I wanted to put up for just a minute, and I'm just going to let it play. Do you see that?
Yep.
Yeah. What do you see there, Rob?
Oh, I see a bunch of points and lines coming together to form a cube.
That's exactly right. It's kind of like almost like somebody was build through these dots and
Yep.
these lines, kind of building a Rubik's cube, you know, a kind of a virtual Rubik's cube. But I love this because when you start to think about the modeling that Rejuvi has, this is a visual representation of a leader, a tailored to the leader and what they need kind of situation, right? Because one of the things that we know through all of our modeling is you can take a look at this cube and you can look at all those little synapses and you can start to understand where are the opportunities for this leader? Which of those dots are green because they're good to go and performing well? Which of those dots are actually red where they need some support? Right? And
Yep. Yep.
Rejuvi's reporting and analytics can give you a heat map in this Rubik's cubed kind of way. What does that do for people? What does that do for leaders? What that actually does is it helps every single leader to have a tailored understanding of what modern leadership looks like in a holistic way. And in addition, they can get a dimensional Rubik's Cube heat map to help them to specifically understand where do I need to feel good? Like
Mhm.
where can I stop worrying? You know, and where do I need to start worrying because I've got some weakness in that particular scenario. Right there, I'll stop sharing. Right there, that's the future, right? We no longer inside of organizations, from a leadership development perspective, from a modern leadership perspective, lead with the product and leave our leaders in scenarios where they're trying to figure out, okay, how do I grab something, you know, a piece of content, and then figure out how to plug it back into my real world. Modern leadership starts with a more holistic model of both the leader and the business. It has correlated the two and it creates this Rubik's Cube of information. And we can now give you this information back, you know, in a heat mapped way. Yeah, that's the future.
That's
Crazy.
fabulous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
You
that
know,
that that seems very tailored.
that is very tailored. And you know what else I think is really you can't say it enough. We're in the middle of, you know, a big implementation right now. Um and it's always fun to introduce these concepts to an organization, you know, who are saying, okay, we want to move forward differently. We want to move forward with modern leadership. And one of the things that I was reminded of was it's not just the fact that we have this dimensional model, right? And you can tailor needs, right? You can tailor needs individually, or you can build this Rubik's Cube for and tailor needs for an entire group, right? But the other thing that this group reminded me of was that it's not a random list. I'm going to put this up again because I love it so much, right? It's not a random list of content. Like you taking a course, you going online to take complete an online course. And trying to figure out what to do with these pieces of information. Because with Rejuvi, where we've already assembled, right, what modern leadership excellence looks like, we can show you how the parts and pieces to come together, right? And I think that's another important message here to kind of help leaders get off the swirly twirly content train. It's not just about tailoring it, but it's showing them how everything is sequenced and kind of fits together. What do I do first, right? What do I do second?
Mm-hmm.
What should I worry about a little bit later on? Yeah, I think that's really
Yeah.
important too.
No, I agree. I couldn't agree more.
Mhm. Thank you, Rob, for being here today. It's got a little bit funny. We call these shows Rejuvi 45, but one of the things that we have learned is we can sometimes kind of come in and be very clear, about what the opportunity is, very clear, very clear about the pain and gain, that the pain or the gain that leaders or organizations are trying to make, and very clear about how Rejuvi provides value or drives value differently in those situations. And so if we do that in 15 minutes, we do it in 15 minutes and then let people get about their business. So thank you for that.
Well, thank
Finally,
you again.
yeah, finally, even though it's super fun to say swirly twirly content train, finally, we're getting leaders off of that swirly twirly content train and moving to the future with better modeling, with emerging technology, with advanced analytics. Thank you everyone for tuning in today, and also for watching our recordings, for watching our reels, for watching our demos. If you like what you see, make sure to like it. And the next time you watch a piece of our content, make sure you bring a friend. We will be back next week. Charlie Jacoby will be with us, and we will be tackling a subject called barrier takedown. Until then, be well.